Good late morning to everybody. How are you guys?
Awesome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good
We are
morning.
you showed up today. It's the hard part, right? We're here. We're gonna go ahead and conquer the day. Made a good decision. We're gonna keep pushing forward. Dive into day 2 of the blueprint training. Appreciate you guys being here on time, having cameras on. It's awesome. We'll wait for a couple other people to cascade in until we get to 11 a.m. But I'm excited about today. It's one of my favorite trainings. If you've been here a while, you've heard this one 74, 75, 76 times. Today, we're going to focus on it specifically for teaching it to realtors. We're going to talk about our why is consistent prospecting difficult, and then go into our 5 laws of the go-giver and stratospheric success. Really enjoy this one because I think it fundamentally changed the way I thought about sales. So for you guys who don't know this about me, my sales career, I did a year in insurance sales, which varying levels of success. But when I found the mortgage industry, I was in a call center. And I started in 2005, May 2005. Had a lot of success early on. And the call center sales very transactional, right? Someone goes online, they apply on Lower My Bills or Lending Tree. Or some other lead company, you call that person up on the phone, and essentially you either get them to go with you or they don't go with you, and that's kind of the end of it. There's no real relationship there. You spend 30 days with that person, maybe 60 days back then if it was a subprime loan, trying to get somebody through the process. But at the end of that, it was transactional, right? And honestly, kind of if you want to keep them on the phone, you don't want that person to hang up, but more importantly, you're never hanging up. And it was very much like always be closing type stuff, right? I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Boiler Room, but I have flashbacks to that when I first started in the business. It was very much like you always be closing, a salesman on every call, either you sell them or they sell you, who's going to close. It was that kind of stuff. And honestly, when I first came to Princeton, I was building a call center. And then 2018, it was one of the reasons I sold my call center that I owned in 2016 was I knew it wasn't the best time to open a call center. In 2018, I saw a continued deterioration in that model, basically because the cost of the leads versus the conversions, the business didn't make sense. And so when we decided to move over to Princeton, and after about 6 months that we decided, okay, let's focus on the retail side, I had to learn retail sales. So I knew mortgage sales, I knew sales, but I had to learn retail sales. There's a guy here named Mike Matejka at the time who was a recruiter, and he said, you should read this book, The Go-Giver. And then I read Ninja Selling, and Ninja Selling referenced The Go-Giver. And so when I dove into that, it really changed how I viewed sales. And by the way, it really kind of focused on some of the icky feelings. And so I'm going to share, this is a picture right from the blueprint. You guys will be able to see this right here and follow along. Feel free to use the second screen if it makes your life better. Why is consistent prospecting difficult? And I'll read you what it says right here. This is not a trick question. You do it to get more business. You go into it wanting that person to choose you to be their listing agent or their seller's agent. You go into it wanting them to make you their preferred realtor for the rest of their lives. Prospecting can be hard, but why? It's because nobody wants to be sold. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. Humans have a natural aversion to being sold. You've experienced this, right? You walk into a furniture store and someone's like, hey, can I help you? And like, you literally just like, oh, I didn't even walk in yet. Like, give me a second, right? We don't want to be sold. You have a natural aversion to it. So when you go into this interaction, you're putting your interest first, it feels a little bit icky. It feels a little bit wrong. Right. And we instinctively kind of know this. If we meet somebody and we have our interest in mind and not theirs, usually you get that kind of feeling of like, oh, I don't like this. And that's why salespeople don't like it. So the purpose of prospecting is not to sell. The purpose of prospecting is to form genuine relationships with people, help them achieve whatever it is they want. So that's kind of where we got to with this, which is like, how do we make sales feel good? Well, the first thing is you got to have a product you believe in. And in this case, the product you believe in, if you're a loan officer, is the mortgage process. If you're a realtor, it's that you're the best realtor for this person, right? And so if I'm a realtor and I'm in my hometown where I do most of my business and I'm convincing somebody to go with me, I'm going to have really high confidence in my product. I'm going to take really good care of my clients and my customers. I should have that confidence, right? But the other thing is that we want to trust our process. And so if it feels transactional with somebody when we go into it, which is like, hey, I'm going to go into this meeting and either I leave here with this person deciding to use me as their realtor or not, it's pass fail. That's going to put me in a very aggressive stance, right? And so, and by the way, then we're going to get a reputation for putting our interests first Everything's going to become very transactional. It's going to be hard to build our business, right? Realtors most of the time get their business through referrals or through their sphere of influence, right? So you want to have a good reputation. Everybody with me so far? That makes sense? So we're going to hop into this is, by the way, after the Go-Giver section of the blueprint, but we're going to kind of scale back to it so you guys can see it. So we got to dive into the Go-Giver, gives you a little background on the book, and it's 5 laws of stratospheric success, and we're going to explore those today and talk about how to teach them. But this was transformational for me, okay? Because it allowed me to go out into the world, put everybody else's interests first, and trust that if I did that, the business and the money would show up. In fact, as a leader here at Princeton Mortgage, I hope you guys have all experienced this with me. We probably had very few conversations where you felt like if our interests weren't aligned in something, where I was putting my interest before yours. In fact, I would say we designed our entire selling system here at Salesforce and our culture here, which is that you and I should kind of always be aligned, right? In terms of what's good. In other words, if I'm telling you that something that's good for you, it's probably also good for me and vice versa. But in the moments where we find where there's something that's only good for one of us, I tend to defer because I believe in general that will come back to me 3-fold, 10-fold in some cases. Okay. So before we dive into the Go-Giver, here's some of the things you want to explore with a realtor before you dive into this. Because by the way, if someone is not opening to thinking about these things in a new way, they will not receive this very well. The reason for that is it's sort of a little bit until you get through it, it feels a little hocus pocusy, right? What I mean by that is you're like, yeah, man, that sounds great, but like the reality is I got to close. And I'm not saying that you don't, right? But what I'm saying is your disposition with the universe and the world, this will make you a happier and more successful person if you follow this process. But you kind of have to go through the whole thing and be open-minded to it before you get to that place. So number 1 is, am I open and open to new perspectives? Am I open to exploring unconventional approaches to success? Am I willing to challenge my existing beliefs about achieving success in business and personal life? You guys probably all know somebody who's very successful who does not seem transactional, seems to have all the time in the world, seems to be present in all of their conversations, seems to have time for you when you need something, right? You also probably know people that are successful that have none of those things. And I'm not saying that one necessarily, I think oftentimes people think this is the only way. I'm actually not saying to you this is the only way to be successful. I'm saying to you is that you're likely to be a happier person with better relationships and feel less icky before and at the end of your day if you choose this path. At least that's how it's been for me. Number 2, your current mindset. Do I often find myself focusing more on getting rather than giving? How do I currently measure success? Am I satisfied with this metric? In other words, do I have a scarcity mindset? Am I walking around feeling all the time like I don't have enough? And by the way, in some cases, that might be real, right? But this is one of the things I always talk about with being a go-giver, having that go-giver mindset is setting yourself up for success. So what does that mean? That means finding a way to spend less than you make. Because the reality is that if you're behind the 8 ball and you feel like you're behind, you're going out into the world feeling like you don't have enough today, it is really hard to put other people's interests first. In fact, there are evolutionary mechanisms in our brain that really make it difficult to focus on other people if what you feel like your basic needs are not being met. And so how can you live your life in a way where your basic needs are being met? And am I willing to put other people's needs first? Okay. I would argue that you can kind of trick yourself through this process, even if you're feeling like you don't have enough right now. What does enough mean? Having those different conversations and getting through that will set you up for that go-giver mindset. And by the way, something I always, when someone is a new realtor, man, it is hard not to have commission breath. And when we talk about putting your needs first, that's what we're talking about. You guys know what commission breath is? Right? You meet somebody and they act like if they don't close this deal today, they're not going to get to eat. Right? Like they have like that kind of heaviness on them. Right? By the way, like that is a huge turnoff. Even if you think that person is a great product and you believe in what they're selling, you almost don't trust it because you're like, man, if this product is as good as they say it is, or this person's as good as they think they are, why are they behaving this way? Why do they need this so much? Right? We have our instincts that come up in this, right? And so we want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to have the right mindset, which is an abundance mindset and a trust in the process that if we give, we will receive. Value creation. How do I perceive the concept of creating value for others? Am I actively seeking ways to provide more value in my professional and personal relationships? Man, when you position yourself with the world and think about what you want to learn, the books you want to read, the things that you want to do from a perspective of, is this something that's going to allow me to create more value for others, my friends, my family, my clients, my coworkers? It is really energizing. I always have energy for the work that's going to help me do better by others. Okay. Number 4, personal and professional growth. Am I in a place where I see growth or change in my professional life? What areas of my personal and professional life do I feel like I could benefit from a more giving approach? Okay. In other words, am I in a place in my life where I feel like the solution is me? Or what I like to say to wake people up more, that the problem has been me. Right? Am I in that place where I feel like I could be the solution and the solve for my problems? Number 5, application of insights. Am I ready to apply new principles in my life and work? Am I prepared to make changes based on the insights I might gain from this book? I have a person in my life who I think slips into all sorts of weird mindset things. And when I approach them with some of this stuff, their stance basically is like, hey, listen, man, I'm this many years old. I'm not changing. It's frustrating for me, but at least we're on the same page, right? So I just move on. Can't change that person. Right? So then my only choice is to accept them for who they are. And so when you're meeting with your realtors, is this person the kind of person that believes that kind of the joy of the journey is in growing and becoming the best possible version of yourself? If not, this might not be the best chapter to go over with them, right? This is for the person that's open to thinking of a new way, a happier way. If they feel like, if you ask them about prospecting and they're like, oh, I don't really like doing that, or, I'm afraid of the phone. This is the stuff that changed my life and made me going from feeling icky to feeling like I was doing everyone a favor by doing my prospecting. And really, when you get your head set in the right place, you can feel that way. Instead of saying, I feel like I'm bothering somebody when I call them, say I'm giving them a gift, right? But doing this work that's part of this process. Imagine how amazing, how much more eager you would be to prospect if every prospecting phone call you made felt like you were delivering someone the Publishers Clearinghouse check. I always say to people, oh, I had too much anxiety to go door knocking. Well, if you were knocking with a $10 million check for someone, would you still have anxiety about knocking on the door? No, you'd be enthusiastic about it. So how can you make you as a person or the thing that you're offering so good that you feel like just by giving somebody an opportunity to hear about it, you feel like you're doing them a favor? How can you become a person where your presence is a gift? Number 6, long-term goals. How do my long-term goals align with the principles of giving and adding value? Am I interested in building lasting relationships and a legacy based on giving more than I take? So if you guys know this, people used to sell a lot of things door to door. They have something called a traveling salesman. I know for you guys who are younger, that may seem like a very foreign concept, but a lot of people made a lot of money over a long period of time by being traveling salespeople. The thing about being a traveling salesperson is it's very transactional. Either they buy today or you never see them again. And what that led to is a lot of swindling, right? Because by the way, if you do a bad job, by the way, you're a traveling salesperson, this is before cell phones, they have no way to call you, they're not reaching back out to you, there's no way for them to complain. You just got your crappy set of encyclopedias and that was it. Right? They used to sell encyclopedias door to door.
We called that a fly, Mark, we called that a fly by night.
Fly by night, right? And so there wasn't a lot of that. Well, those days are long gone. And what realtors do and what loan officers do is we're members of a community. And so there's a ton of additional pressure on us to make sure that we're constantly delivering value. And so I'm going to talk these 5 principles of the go-giver. When you break into them, man, do they simplify what those lessons really are. By the way, if you have not read The Go-Giver, it is a 3-hour, very quick read. It is a story, a parable. It is not like an instruction manual or how-to. It is just about a kid learning sales and going through the world and picking up these lessons. Very enjoyable read. Highly recommend it. Bob Berg, who is the author, is very active on social media. And if you read it, you message him, he will reply, which is always fun because he's got a large following as well. I recommend that. He's an awesome dude. All right. The law of value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you accept in payment. Okay? Here's my other way of saying that. When people do business with you, they get more than they expect. Right? Because as a loan officer or even as a realtor, for the most part, we don't have a lot of control over our price. Right? If you're a good realtor, you're getting your 6%, 5% if it's maybe huge values. If you're a loan officer, you're not setting pricing. So all you can do is give more to people than they expect. So how, as a loan officer, can you give more to a client than they expect? Not a trick question. Lisa.
Save them time and educate them.
Save them time and educate them. What else?
Communicate effectively with all parties every week throughout the transaction.
Yeah, why is that so important?
So
Because
everybody knows where they're at.
if you leave them out there wondering, they conjure up, those thoughts come in. They start conjuring up that there's something going on, because we're in an information age, and we're communication is simple. And if now no news is not good news. So if you're not communicating, then there's a problem. So we want to make sure that we are being systematic with our warm reaches so that people expect that, and we keep that temperature level exactly where we need it to be.
So exactly, I'm going to say it in a concise way. We reduce stress during the mortgage process. That's it. Buying a home is stressful. Hiring a moving company is stressful. Moving into your house, moving out of your old house, collecting your things, throwing things away, getting your family ready, getting them ready for new schools or new jobs or new things, all things that people are going through while they're going through the mortgage process, very stressful. In fact, moving, okay, like literally moving on the stress chart is at the very top, like up there with like death of close loved ones. Okay, this is a traumatic experience for people. I don't know, you guys are not, I know not a lot of huge sports fans in here, but I'll share this with you. Emmanuel Quickly, drafted by the Knicks at 21 years old, was just traded last week after 3 years with the team. Amazing kid. He got traded a week ago to Toronto. Didn't know it was coming, got traded. He had to move from New York City to Toronto. And he wrote an amazing article today. It's in The Athletic, talking about, they basically thanking New York for his time there and talking about the trade and what it meant to him. He talks about getting hungry last night in Toronto and not knowing where to eat and how stressful that was. Now, this guy's got millions and millions of dollars and teams of people helping him move from one place to another, and was the moving and leaving people behind, the stress of it was really, really difficult, right? And so I share that with you guys because we are dealing with people who are vulnerable and stressed during this process, right? Becoming somebody who sets clear expectations, does what they say they're going to do, gives clear updates to the process, and makes everybody feel like it's going to be okay. That is the best way we can deliver value, right? And I'm talking about all the different things we can do to make that happen. I also saw, I can't find this for some reason. I've looked before, maybe I'll look again. One of the top realtors in the country, guys like top 100, does hundreds of millions of dollars a year in sales. He was teaching basically this specific thing. He was talking about all of the things him and his team do for clients on their transactions. And it was like very thoughtful closing gifts, very thoughtful opening stuff. We do special things with the keys to the house. We do special things with it. There's a million different ways that a realtor uses that I had never even thought of before that made somebody feel like it was special during the transaction to deliver more value. Helping your realtors find the things that they can do to deliver more value than is expected is the number one thing that will make people a raving fan. Okay. Now, where are some areas of our life that this happens? So I'll give you some examples. A hamburger. How many of you guys have ever paid $3 for a hamburger in your life? How many of you guys have ever paid $30 for a hamburger in your life? Why would we ever do that if we could get one for $3?
That $30 burger was a great experience.
Maybe. It definitely should be, or you're not going to have it twice, right? McDonald's is one of my favorite examples to talk about when we go through Go-Giver lessons, right? You get more than you expect. People get more than they expect when they go to McDonald's. What do I mean by that? The meal is relatively inexpensive compared to other food, although inflation is tough. When I was a kid, they had 59-cent and 69-cent hamburgers and cheeseburgers, not anymore, okay? Right? Relatively inexpensive, incredibly fast, incredibly consistent, tastes the same every single time, and it's easy, right? So in other words, people generally will say, hey, that burger cost me $7, but I'm having a $12 experience with it based on the way that it tastes and how fast I got it, how easy I got it. I could do the drive-through. It was convenient. It was easy. And so that's how you sell billions and billions of burgers. Now, if McDonald's charged $40 for their burger, would people still buy it? Probably not, right? their sales would drop dramatically. People would no longer feel like they were getting more than they're paying for. And so this clear law of value, and we know it, by the way, as human beings, we are genetically wired to recognize value, right? What's our equation for value, by the way? Does anybody ever go through this with me before? What are the components, when we're evaluating something as a good value to us as human beings, what are the three things that we're evaluating in that point? Some of these are obvious. What are our three components of value? Three words.
Easy to access.
The cost.
So price, cost, like actual dollar cost. Yep. What else?
Easy to get, easy to access.
The experience overall, which we'll talk about in a minute, because it doesn't always have to be easy. We'll talk about that in a second. The experience, and what else?
It's useful.
So talk about that in a second. The last one is time. This is the one that people always forget about. It's time, money, experience, right? If you don't have all three of those variables, you cannot assess value. I can say to you, hey, how would you like to go to a beautiful deserted island, all expenses paid? You'd be like, great, but you have to spend the rest of your life there without your friends and family. You might be like, okay, I don't want to go, right? If I say to you, run across these hot coals for 10 grand, you might do it. If I say you have to stand on those hot coals for an hour, changes the equation, okay? So time, money, and experience is our thing. So in our process as a realtor or a loan officer, how can you save somebody time, save somebody money, right? By the way, as a realtor, you do a lot of recommendations. You would recommend this vendor or that vendor or this vendor. All of those, by the way, are about time, money, and experience, right? And how can you make sure this person enjoys their experience? So when I talk about prospecting, having Walt Disney World levels of enthusiasm, giving your best effort, that's about somebody's experience. People are willing to pay more and even spend more time if they enjoy the experience, right? So McDonald's is not known for its atmosphere. I would say the experience at McDonald's is not huge for adults, but they do have the play area for the kids. And if the kids go play in the play area and the adults get quiet time, does that add to their experience? Obviously, or they wouldn't spend all that money building play areas, right? So successful businesses are factoring in time, money, and experience on these different events, and people will pay more for things that save them time or that they enjoy. They're either going to pay for things that bring them pleasure or relieve pain, okay? The law of value. The law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So if McDonald's sold $7 burgers, but they only sold 10 at each location every day, would they have a good business? No, they have a huge client pool. I'll give you another example of this that I think really resonates with me. LeBron James. How much do you guys have to pay to turn on the TV and watch him play basketball? It's basically free, right? You pay for TV and that's there, right? There's not a huge expense to see LeBron play, right? But because millions of people are watching, right? And he's serving millions of people, okay? Then he makes a lot of money, right? And even if he only makes 1 penny for each person watching each ad that comes up, that money trickles down. Those NBA teams make a lot of money. The NFL teams, the rights to those. I believe Peacock is showing the NFL playoff game on Saturday night. They paid $200 million to show that one game, okay? Because they're hoping people are going to move over and subscribe. Attention matters. How many people you serve. So here's another thing, right? So a loan officer will say to me, well, I'm going to be the best in the world at serving my clients. I'm going to be available for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm going to spend 10 hours working to do the loan application. I'll spend all this time with them. But then I can only do 1 or 2 loans a month. Well, is that a great way to make a lot of money? No, right? And so we have to figure out how we can deliver exceptional service at a good cost and save people time, right? Time, money, experience, and we have to be able to do it in a way where we can do it for many people, right? And so if we don't figure that part of the equation out, we don't build our business. So for your realtors, you constantly want to be working with them as how they can achieve scale, how they can give somebody that exceptional client experience, help them make more money on their transaction, help them save them time, help reduce stress, but also set up a process where maybe they work with a team, maybe they hire an assistant, maybe they have somebody overseas helping them with their process so they can serve more people better, right? more people. By the way, what are they going to do for marketing? How are you going to continue to up your level of compensation by getting more people? This one seems obvious until you realize you have to combine it with the first one, which we have to be able to serve more people and still deliver more in an experience that people are expecting for what they pay for, right? When you're buying a car, everybody's bought a car here, right? Some people bought a Hyundai or a Kia. Some people have bought Mercedes. Both cars will get you to where you need to go almost every time. We are paying for experience, right? We pay vastly differently for experience in that, right? So we're thinking about how can we become the Mercedes of realtors, helping somebody become that. What does that mean? I'm really going to see if I can find that video again because it was so good. It was like at an Inman conference. This guy was going and giving. It was amazing. There's so many ways. By the way, just Google ChatGPT. What do top realtors do to make clients feel special that makes them deliver more value? I guarantee you'll get a million good answers. Okay, help those guys deliver value. So the law of influence. Anybody have any questions, by the way, about the law of value and the law of compensation? Questions?
I just have one quick question, Mark. Sorry, did I cut somebody off?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, quick question for you. So when it comes to, I always in my head thought we had, or the way I visualize it is we have two sets of customers, clients, right? We have our realtors and our borrowers. Am I correct there? Right? Like there's
Sure,
two different.
100%.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So when you are vetting realtors and coming up with your per hour, and I totally vibe with what you're saying because I've always felt that I was boutique and white glove service, but like attracted those people. They knew I wasn't the cheapest in town, but they knew they were going to get above exceptional, right? And that's why they came to me or referred. My question is very specific. How do you manage when you have realtors? They're such a big part of the process, but I have some realtors that are still very rate conscious. Like they'll ask a borrower, did you get a good rate? Or they'll poke around the rate or they'll poke around the closing costs. If you know what I'm saying, they kind of get out of the lane. Yeah. How do you deal with it do you still take on those realtors as your customer base? Do you pass them up? Because I'm not the cheapest in town. I'm never going to be the cheapest in town. Follow me?
Yeah. I think it's a real conversation to have with people, right? And so the question is, first of all, what kind of car does your realtor drive? Are they driving a Kia?
Well, some of these ones aren't like, they're not like I call them my Mary Pats of the world that are like very fine wine and dining. They're definitely not.
When you ask them where they want to go for lunch, are they constantly asking you to take them to McDonald's?
No.
And so my point is, right, by the way, and by the way, are they also discount realtors? Are they only doing it for 1.5% instead of 3%?
Good point. I never thought about it that way.
Right. And so here's the thing, and so this is very simple, right? Either you believe there's value to having an experienced loan officer who takes care of their clients, does a better job, gets you closing on time, reduces stress during the process, or you believe that this is a complete commodity thing. It doesn't matter who you go through and you value just saving $5 over something else. And the reality is that, there are 10% of people who always are going to want the cheapest. Right. And we've seen this over time. There's been many studies. 10% of people are like, at all things, I want the cheapest. Strangely, 5% of people are wired for the most expensive because they immediately think when something is more expensive, it's better. Okay. Right. The other 85% of people are looking for some combination of value. And so the answer is you have to convince that realtor, if it's worth convincing them, that you, for the amount of money you get, by the way, sometimes it'll be the cheapest, oftentimes we won't be, you'll be able to find somebody who's better. But here are all of the things that I will do for your clients that will give them a different experience. And by the way, explain to the realtor, the likelihood of this borrower, this client coming back to you will a lot of times depend on their overall stress level during this process. And you may think you're the greatest realtor in the world, but if they go with a discount lender who creates a stressful process, they will not come back to you next time. They will want a clean slate. They'll want to work with somebody else. And if you don't believe that, look at the numbers. 85% of people say they'll work with their realtors again. Almost none of them do. If you want to be the exception, you better have a team of people in place that make it so great for people they would never think to use anyone else. I'm the loan officer for realtors who want their borrowers to have the most amazing experience in the world, not save $8 a month. Right? And just be very clear about it. Nikki and Melanie, quick questions. Go ahead.
So just the easiest thing to give people that costs you nothing and helps you win people over and keep them is to scrub their credit. and convince people that when they work with you, you care about them, you care about their credit, which will put them in a better position for everything in life.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, there's a million ways. There's like a million ways. You define the ones that are authentic to you, right? But the answer is, unless that realtor is also a discount realtor, then why are they expecting you to be a discount loan officer? Right? They didn't, I'm assuming that realtor is not growing their business based on the fact that they're going to be cheaper than everybody else. Right? Neither should you. Melanie.
Okay, I don't sell right, but here's what we need to understand. We are an extension of that realtor's brand. So when that realtor is presenting this whole thing to their client and they're recommending you, then they are trusting you with their paycheck. And they're trusting you because you have shown them that you add value. So for that, I don't work discount. The realtor is not going to work discount. It's going to cost what it's going to cost, but I guarantee that it's going to be a beautiful experience and I'm going to reduce your stress. That's it. It's not that hard. That's how I feel.
Yeah, are you going to use the cheapest photographer for the pictures? Are you using the cheapest stager for the staging, or are you using the one who's the best?
Listen,
Right.
I used a very expensive plastic surgeon for my reconstruction. Insurance paid for it, thank goodness. But this is my body. I've only got one. I'm not going to go bargain basement.
Exactly. You don't want the cheapest doctor either. Will, did you have a question?
You were asking how I had heard people had value, but you were past that, so don't worry about it. I heard something peculiar about a guy I went to high school with, very successful real estate agent, but that's something I can tell you later, but he did something
Yeah, tell me.
pretty
We'll
awesome.
share it for sure.
So you want to tell you later and share it later? Or tell you now?
How can you make it a 30-second story?
Pretty quick. He basically bought a boxy car, put an LCD drop-down screen in it, and anytime he was taking his customers somewhere, he put the loop of all the house photos that they were going to see right up there so that they could continue to re-see them and try to narrow it down while in the car, and that saved him time.
I love that. Super cool, right? And by the way, like, all that says to your client, even if that specific thing isn't like specific what they need, it's like, oh, this person cares more. And that's what we're trying to deliver, right? More value than people expect. The law of influence. The law of influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first, right? So by the way, we came out of 2008 with the Dodd-Frank laws, which basically said as a loan officer, you're going to put your client's interest first no matter what. We're going to pay the same amount on every deal, whether you use FHA or conventional, or you know, by the way, back then there were these interest-only ARMs with 3-year prepays, and as a loan officer, you make the most amount of money selling those, so people did, even if they weren't in their client's best interest, right? You're going to go ahead and put your client's best interest first, right? As the realtors, for the realtors, what are the things that they can do to convey to people that they put their client's interest first? I will say this, right? I see a bunch of realtors out there, and no matter what the market conditions are, they have some meme up every day explaining why this is the right time to buy or sell. Over time, for me, that starts to feel pretty inauthentic. Okay, in this moment, if I don't need to buy, listen, I'm a first-time home buyer and I'm renting, sure, I want to get into the market no matter what, right? If I'm an investor and I'm picking my spots, and you're like, no, this is the best time ever to buy real estate as an investor, like maybe. But like, if you're saying that, then you better have another time period where you don't believe that. Because if you're always, as a realtor, trying to convince everybody that now is the best time to buy at this very moment, no matter what, for this person, then you're putting your interest above theirs, right? Because not every moment can be the best moment, okay? I share this with you, just, I'm not being critical of anyone saying buy right now or anything else. Who the hell knows? Maybe I'll be right. What I am saying is making sure that you are getting to know your clients well enough where you're understanding what their needs are. Some of my best clients are people that the first time I met them, I told them now was not the time to refinance. Right? Now is not the right time for you to buy. You got to get your credit in order first. You got to get your expenses in order first. You got to pay off this credit card debt first. You got it, or you should, right? Anytime you make a recommendation to someone that's against your best interest, your trust level goes through the roof, right? You've had it happen to you before where someone was like, don't you want this sale? I'll give you an example. Actually, today, Kate sent me a text from a loan officer that she thought we should recruit. The text from the loan officer said, I'm really happy right now. I got this going for me, this going for me, this going for me. So it's probably not a good time for me to move. Kate sent me a text, hey, do you want a challenge? You should reach out to this person. I said, why would I ever want to convince this person to move if they're happy where they are? Right? That would be putting my interest above theirs. Right? In that moment. That may sound crazy. Like, Mark, Don't you want to recruit loan officers? Of course I do. But I think there's enough loan officers out there that I can deliver real value to that maybe aren't happy where they are or are stuck, or we can do something for them. I'm not going to chase somebody or try to talk somebody out of what they think is a good situation to move right now. That'd be putting my interests first. I would lose my ability to influence. And when you called me for advice, as the sales trainer here, I was constantly thinking about my interest or the company's interest above yours. You would stop trusting me. The first time I give you advice that's obviously in favor of you and not in favor of me or the company, you trust me forever till I blow it. Very simple, right? So this is a mindset thing. I do not recommend things I don't believe in. I do not recommend things I wouldn't do. And by the way, I relish in the moment that I can give somebody advice that is not immediately in my favor, because it makes me an opportunity to build trust and a friendship forever. And so that is a mindset thing. I firmly recommend you get in place with your realtors, because again, if a realtor is always feeling self-serving, man, people can see that. It feels like commission breath immediately again, right? When someone wants to get to know you.
I was getting ready to say that's commission
Yeah,
breath. Absolutely.
Exactly. When someone wants to get to know you and figure out what the best thing is for you specifically, that's where you'll have influence. That's where people will trust you. Number 4, the law of authenticity. This one took me a while to really figure out how to teach. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. So some people think that means, so by the way, let's talk, actually, I'm going to give it away. What do you guys think it means to be authentic? Pretty straightforward.
Just be who you are.
Yeah, be you.
Be you. Does that work for everybody?
Sometimes.
Depends on where your mindset is. Now, if you're in low negative all the time, that's probably not going to work. If you're in high negative all the time, that's probably not going to work.
How you ever meet anybody who was like, hey, dude, this is me, take it or leave it? Is that what we're talking about when we say be authentic?
No. It's just me.
Authenticity should not be used as a weapon to justify whatever it is that you have going on. Right? This is a really important thing I think people get wrong with this. It's like, well, listen, this is me. I got to be myself. It's like, you should be true to who you are and your beliefs. But really, the law of authenticity for me means doing the work on yourself, where you offer more to people by just being there, where how you operate, your presence, the things you've learned, the books you've read, the things you're teaching, the putting other people's interests before your own, your authenticity in that, doing the work on yourself becomes the thing that attracts people to you. I want realtors who want to refer clients to me just because they trust me and want to spend more time working with me, right? They actually will refer somebody so that they have a reason to stay connected, because the experience of spending time with me, they find so valuable. I had 2 realtor lunches over the next week that were with realtors who called me and asked me to sit down with them and have lunch to help them with their business. I've done the work being authentically me, that those people want to spend more time with me and are calling me to spend time with them, right? By the way, these are very high, super high producing realtors, super high producing guys that I actually look up to. They're the ones reaching out to me. Okay. And so I shared this with you guys because this is where, if you don't feel like being authentically you is attracting people, now is the time to get to work, adding new information, adding new skills, learning new things, finding new vibes, surrounding yourself with new people, where you just showing up for people becomes the gift, right? And I think it's a really important thing here, which is like, when your confidence is shot, it's really hard to be authentic and then also have people attracted to you. And so you know how you get confidence? There's 2 ways to get confidence. 1 is by learning. 2 is by making yourself small promises and coming through on them. Having a consistent personal track record of you saying you're going to do something and doing it builds confidence, right? So if you say, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and you wake up at 6 a.m., you're going to be more confident today than you were yesterday. If you say, I'm not going to eat that thing till then, or I'm going to cut that thing out of my diet, and you do it, you will start to build trust and confidence in yourself, right? So the law of authenticity means, hey, are you feeling confident in the fact that you deliver value to people? And are you consistently working to become the best version of yourself, where being authentically you is attractive?
You're describing accountability, personal accountability. So when you
Well-
can be accountable to yourself and trust yourself, then others will be able to trust you. If you are lying to yourself all day long, no one's going to believe anything coming out of your mouth.
Absolutely, right? And so we got to be able to build that trust with ourselves and be, again, the authenticity piece is, how am I consistently doing more, right? So that I am the most valuable thing I can offer to somebody, right? And that's where all this comes into. Okay, number 5, man, I still have to remind myself of this one all the time. Okay, but by the way, this book changed my life because now I have a framework for letting go. Anybody know? Everybody, this is who I was for a long time, by the way. I go out to the bar, I buy somebody a drink. We go out to the bar next time, they want to buy me the first drink, and I literally steal all of the joy from that person on it. No, don't buy me that. I got it. I got the next. Don't listen. I can't listen. I got it. I would get, if someone buys me dinner still, my initial reaction is to be angry at them. 2 reasons for that. One is I like to be in control, right? And so by the way, I'm losing control if somebody else is making that decision. Second thing is I don't want to be in debt to anybody. I don't want to feel like I owe anybody anything. These are trauma responses that I'm having to that, right? That is a trauma response, which is like, you cannot buy me this thing. By the way, it makes me feel smaller in some way when someone's doing those things for me, right? This is messed up stuff that I got to get over, right? And so if you go out in the world and every time someone wants to do something for you, you're like, no, don't. You're robbing that person of the joy of being a go-giver themselves. Don't yuck somebody's yum on this stuff, okay? Being a go-giver is great. Allowing other people to feel great about being a go-giver is just as good. And so when you go, by the way, you can do all this stuff, but if you're shut off to receiving, you will not be as successful as you want to be, because you'll be sending a message to everybody not to help you and not to give to you. And then they won't. And you'll steal that joy from them, right? So when someone sends you a referral, you reach out and you say, thank you, and mean it, and be over the top about it, and be grateful for it. And by the way, like really grateful, but not for you, but to make that person feel great. They deserve it. I go out of my way all the time when someone gives to me now to make them feel good for it. By the way, my initial reaction sometimes is still literally to fight somebody for a check. Like literally jump over a table. This happened to me not that long ago, where I was literally like, no, like reaching out and doing it, right? I know there's time recently where somebody paid the check before it even came. They like walked to the bathroom and gave the waiter the card. Boiling, right? Then I catch myself. And I literally tell this story. I'm like, I'm really grateful for that. I want to shift. I want to appreciate it. I think that I'm not used to that, right? Really good. Here's me. Thank you. I really appreciate that. There's this great book. I have to be receptive. I'm really grateful that you did that, right? But it doesn't mean, by the way, that you can't also be the first one to grab the check sometimes, right? Or all the time if you want to, right? But if someone goes out of their way to give to you, you have to be open to receive. It will take you so much further. And then people will really experience joy in giving to you. So you want to be a great receiver of other people's gifts, encouraging other people to be a go-giver and take it to the next level. Man, imagine how great your business would be if you worked with a bunch of realtors who were living by these principles. Imagine how many clients that they would attract. Imagine the kind of clients that they would attract. Imagine how great it would be to work with those people. Imagine, by the way, if your realtor is, Stacy, to your point, if your realtor's going like, well, if you're not giving the best rate, I'm not going to refer you clients. And that person is not living in an abundance mindset. They're projecting their own scarcity and their own transactional nature of this process into that. They're going to attract those types of clients too. And by the way, I might take a stab at teaching them this stuff, right? And let me do you a favor, right? Stop counting everybody else's money. That's never gotten anyone far. No one is like, what I really value about my realtor? They're constantly making sure that nobody else is making any money on their transactions. Like, that's not what people want, right? That's not what most people want. Most people want to pay a fair price and get more than they expect. It's that simple. And so with me, your clients will pay a fair price and get way more than they expect. I guarantee it. I'll give them $1,000 if they're unhappy for any reason. Right? That's the message there. Not that we're the cheapest, but that we put our money where our mouth is. Okay. All right, guys, it's 11:43. Any last minute questions before I let you guys attack the universe and get ready for your weekend?
There is.
I have one. Is there any way you can show me what a 3-minute phone call looks like?
We are actually doing Ford conversations as a training topic. Not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, and we will do a specific training on how to have those 3-minute phone calls.
Mark,
Yes.
Mark, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that about being a gracious receiver. I went through that challenge as well.
Yeah.
And it's really good to work through.
Yeah, I was bad at all of these 6 years ago. Like, honestly, guys, like, this is like, I was a shark. It was eat or beat, right? I literally used to like quote boiler room quotes during the onboarding process at the company that I ran. We were sharks,
I
right?
think of Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross always be selling, but yeah, same kind
Always
of
be
concept.
Always be
But
closing.
Yes, by the way, I literally acted like second place was a set of steak knives and third place you're fired. Right? Like, it was like, you got to be first or you're last. Like, that was how it was. And about everything I did, right? So this was transformational for me. And so I share that for you because there's a chance it will be transformational for your realtor partners if you introduce it to them. It's a simple, easy book to read. There's nothing anybody can get offended about with it. And basically it just says to you, hey, you can be successful without being a shark. In fact, you can be the kind of person that just is a magnet for other people to work with you by living these 5 values that, by the way, feel really good. Feel really good. Celebrate like somebody left the gate open. I love that. Guys, happy selling, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Work your process. Work your morning routines. Do your scorecards. Get the stuff done. Doing those things will make you braver and tougher for next week. We'll build on those things. Don't take the easy way out. It'll make you feel small and weak. Happy selling, everybody. See you guys on Monday.